Today, one more day of our Congress. I'm here at the auditorium at Uninove with Marcelo Cruzato, and we have Jessica Stanford, a bit far away from here, but with us. Thank you all. We have today the interpreters with us. Okay, we have Felipe Pazello and Denise Discípulo. They are supporting us on the translation of this session. Okay, then welcome. This session of the 2020 KM Brazil Conference, one more day. We started last week with several cases presented, and officially we opened only yesterday, but a lot of things already is going on. I'm Renata Dalmaso. I'm the SBGC CEO and KM specialist at Amazul. I will moderate this session today. And with me, I have Flavia Celidonio. She's an SBGC associate and also my colleague at Amazul. Flavia is a journalist and a KMer. And she will help with the questions. Please post your questions on the Telegram or on the page of the conference. She will help us to consolidate those and pass through us, okay? Thank you, Flavia, for being here also. Okay, some practicality. I will start with a short presentation just to give you a context of this panel, the destiny of work, the work destiny, okay? So we'll talk about the destiny, how we'll survive from now on. And then Marcelo will talk a little bit about the opportunities and his experience, focus on the organization, okay? And Jessica, and then he will hand over to Jessica to talk more about the individual. So then we have both perspectives, the individual inside the organization and vice versa, okay? So hope you enjoy our session. We prepared with a lot of energy. Okay, so just a little bit here, inspired from the session we had yesterday, building connections and creating new knowledge. So the session facilitated by Maria Fernanda and Fernando Fukunaga, we have a lot of inspirations and a very interesting video was shown. And then one of the main things that comes out is, in order to go far in our work journey, and take the ownership of this, it's very important to follow a vision, not a path. So I recommend you to check that video later on. So it's important to really develop your gut feelings. I mean, your intuition, and also pay attention to the weak signals. If you, for example, there are some cases that happened in the past that show that shows about weak signals. When you pay attention on weak signals, you can prevent or even mitigate some risks that could be avoided, right? And for example, the Pearl Harbor attack, it's one of them, and 9/11 also. There are some evidence, or there are some evidence from history that some information was received before. So it's really important to check on that. And also regarding the intuition, yesterday, no, it was on Monday. We had a session with Professor Neri from Florianopolis, and he showed us, he mentioned about the intuition as well. So I recommend you to check that session. It was very interesting. So it's a very important thing to pay attention, right? And develop it. Also address the new reality. So it's really, everything is moving in a new speed now. It's extremely high speed, right? So it's important to move on and take take actions very quickly. Also adapt. It's important to adapt to the new business, what is the market is requesting, and then you are able to reinvent your organization, yourself. So it's really important to move on. Recently, a newsletter from McKinsey showed some information. For example, the U.S. e-commerce. The U.S. e-commerce penetration has grown in just 90 days, I mean 3 months. The correspondence in the 10 years, much more than 10 years. So it's that's the speed of growth at this moment. So it's then the speed. It's really important to pay attention. And then, in order to survive and to be sustainable, right? To be sustainable, have really sustainable actions that you can take. It's important that knowledge management is built in the core of the organization. So you have to take care also about your personal knowledge management. Today we'll have a panel, a session about this as well, regarding your PKM, okay? So, and then this, because knowledge management, when you have this inside your organization and well managed there, you can prevent repeat mistakes, right? Because you can really learn from history and have access to that information and quickly have access to that information. And also the decisions you take, so the decision making process is easier. You have something from history to be supported of. Okay, so then it also facilitates people to collaborate, okay? And also you can push and improve peer-to-peer learning, which is very important. Actually, here in Brazil, we have a saying that if you receive a lemon, go and do a lemonade, not think that is something that is not good. So prepare a nice lemonade. It means that when you receive you are in the middle of a crisis, you receive a problem to solve, just solve it quickly. Then the impact will be reduced, can be reduced, right? And then talking about that, in SBGC, we really apply these quick actions, and I wrote an article we are launching an ebook during this Congress. All of you that attending the Congress will receive this ebook with some articles. A lot of people wrote very, very nice articles. I wrote one talking about SBGC and digital transformation. And there I tell a little bit what we have done with this crowned lemon that we got 6 months ago. Because here in Brazil, the pandemic situation arrives drastically just 6 months ago, and in the world we had like 10 months before, right? not only 6. So we learned a little bit from what happened 4 months before it arrives here. And we took this ground lemon and we transformed it in delicious lemonade pies and some caipirinhas as well at SBGC. And one of the outputs is this one that we are in, because we were planning the KM Brazil conference to be not in this format. We planned to be here where we are. We are in the Uninove auditorium. That's where we planned it before. Everybody would be here. But then with this, we have to adapt. So in less than 6 months, we had to adapt all the structure of our event in partnership with Uninove. Then we are here today. So move on. So this just about the individual. So this is the new way. This is the way to move forward. You have to develop. It's our recommendation that you really pay attention on these characteristics that you have to do. They must have qualities that you have to develop in order to navigate smoothly on this renewed universe. Because, we know that from now on it's very different from what we had before. We were very accelerated to this new era, right? So then, looking at this picture, the way to treat the knowledge, taking good care of the knowledge, managing it in a very, very good form, reusing that, telling the stories about this, also passing. It's like when you're passing through a portal, because your curiosity when you pass through this portal is revealed. So it's the same when you have your knowledge inside the organization well cared, right? So it makes you feel more safe and well prepared to face the challenges ahead. So this saying from Nonaka, Nonaka is a very one of the main authors in knowledge management. He summarizes it: the only certainty is uncertainty. The only safe source of lasting competitive advantage is knowledge. So that's it. So why Marcelo and Jessica are here with me? Why I invited them to this panel? Actually, because I met them and in a very special way, I would say, and then I realized that they have a very, very singular career in life and career at work as well. So I met them attending courses, not exactly formal business courses. I met Jessica in Sweden, taking Swedish classes. So we were there working, and we took this foreigners Swedish course. So that's where we met. And then Marcelo, I met him in a graphical design course. We studied for 2 years, not long, 2 years, but every single Saturday, very happy Saturdays, we spend studying that part. So this course brings us new perspectives on life, help us to develop our creativity. All these must have qualities that we have to develop. So now, here you have their more formal CV. Marcelo has more than 25 years of broad experience in corporate world. leading large consumers good categories and brands in Brazil, Mexico, US. And well, he's very passionate for strategic planning. Yes, I would say, because we were reviewing last year, we were reviewing SBGC strategy, and he was there participating on the discussions as well. So very good. And Jessica, she's a program manager. It's more than 17 years in the working and living internationally. Yes, she's been around. I cannot count. Maybe she will tell us later on, because she speaks 1,000 languages and, and has very long experience as well. And now she's based on Philippines. Working in a very, very interesting area regarding reconstructions. So she will tell us a bit more. And okay, that's it. And let's move on. Now I will hand over to Marcelo to talk about experiences, opportunities, and so on. Thank you. Marcelo, now we'll feel. Thank you.
Very good. So thank you so much, Renata. It's really a great pleasure to be here with the team, talking about knowledge, sharing our experiences. So it's a really pleasure to share this moment with you. So thanks so much for the opportunity. So just let me start. Can you hear better? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so let me start telling a little bit about myself. It's a long journey. I started my career in advertising here in Brazil, so quickly moved into management. So after doing a master's degree in London, so I decided to focus my career in management and marketing. So it's been 25 years, especially working in the corporate world, managing global brands, large categories, especially in consumer goods. So you name it. So I've been in toothpaste and mouthwashes and cleaning products, so hair care products, so all over. So a long experience here in Brazil, working in São Paulo, but as Renata said, I also spent some time abroad, so long years living in Mexico City and also in New York. So I've been very passionate along these years for marketing strategies, really balancing what companies need. So a lot of focus on driving growth, managing the P&L, so very good with numbers, but also balancing innovation. So I'm very focused, and this is where my heart is. So looking into new insights, revealing new things. So really passionate to be on the other side, understanding the real meaning of people, what is behind the numbers. So I'm hoping here in this session today to share a little bit of this journey. It's less academical, but it's more on the practical side. Okay, so it's been a transformation for me many years ago, so it didn't start this year. But very importantly, in the last 5 years, I've been learning new skills, a lot of new skills, working as a consultant, as an independent, but also I'm a partner now in a consulting company that is called DMS Partners. Basically, it's overall management. Consulting, management consulting, and also in M&A operations. So very good now that I see the market with different views. So taking everything that I learned in the corporate and applying this also in startups, managing, helping, coaching, mentoring medium, smaller companies, exercising entrepreneurship. I think that's one of the important things I've been doing, and this is taking me to new levels in terms of learnings and taking my careers to new ways. So a short time here today, but if you want to continue the conversation, so it's my pleasure. So I leave you here with my LinkedIn and email, so we can continue the conversation. Okay, so talking about the work destiny is a fascinating topic. So we are all living in this rapid transformation world. So we couldn't imagine that what we are living today. So talking about what we are learning in this moment, talking about with these optimistic lenses, right? So if we were having this discussion 6 months ago, probably we were having a little bit more of a dark conversation, so without much expectations. But now we have so much published, we have so many articles, so many thinkers talking about what we are living, that is easier now that we don't talk about the new, but we can also talk about the next. So my goal today is focus on where do we go from here, what we see next, and also what is in need for you. So not only on the corporate perspective, but what all these that we are living, what it brings new, how we are doing to adapt to this new situation we are living. When putting together this presentation, I thought in 3 major themes. The first one is the world is changing so much, and that we are learning more and more by practicing. So this is an important area I want to focus on. And second, we need to manage the expectations from leaders. Our leadership is taken to a new level, putting in a different way. So organizations are expecting more from each one of us. So more on giving results and bringing fast and agile results to the business, but also we need to keep in mind the strategy behind. So we need to keep a balance on practicality, but also looking at the future and putting strategy behind. And lastly is you should be the protagonist. So there's so much going on. You should be very close to your career and be the protagonist in everything we are doing. So moving into contextualizing a little bit more. So keep in mind that all of us we are part of a more traditional way of being educated. So we went through formal education, went to college, we made important career decisions early on. So we got the passport to move to organizations, to get into the professional life. This is a traditional way of things so far. So we went into these organizations, different types of businesses with all these expectations. So you are focused on building your career as a vertical way of growing. So this is what was expected by companies. So companies until today, they've always been these machines of doing and repeating things, and you were part of this model. You were there in the company, understanding, translating what you're seeing in the market, so delivering the right products, managing the demand, managing the success, planning, and so this is on and on. Your responsibility to continue delivering results and values to the company, to stakeholders, and securing future earnings. So this is part of the process that we are part. But now things are changing rapidly, and we need to adapt. So we are moving and improving the way we were on learning and practicing, but now we are doing more and more on learning by practicing. So this is something that is part of this transformation, is part of the new world that we need to be ready and have a protagonist role on it. So when we talk about transformations, that there's no way we cannot talk about what we are living now. Renata, she mentioned earlier about the quick transformation on e-commerce in the US. So in just a few weeks in the US, the growth was much, much bigger than the last 10 years. The same happened here everywhere. Only to give an example, in Brazil, almost 90% of people who have access to the internet, they purchase online. So it's over 130 million people who are now buying online. So this is a major shift in behavior. We are all learning by experience. We have a new dynamics when we go shopping. Companies have adapted to this new shopper, this new consumer. So there's new interactions, so new values arising at home. We are now seeing a different balance, so we are balancing work and life in a different way. So these pictures here that I chose for the presentation tells a lot. So you have this mom balancing her duties and managing her responsibilities as a mom. So everybody's learning, including the little one. So there's a lot of things that we should be learning at this moment. This is a magic opportunity for us to reinvent and grow. Very important on a business side, especially on marketers. In my career, I've never seen a moment which is so important for marketers. So there's a huge opportunity now and high expectations that this professional, he's really on the front line managing the 4 Ps. Managing the product, managing the price promotions, and the distribution channels, the multi-channel strategy. There's so much going on now that this leader has this additional responsibility or higher responsibility to orchestrate all of this, including guaranteeing the customer experience, guaranteeing the brand growth, and building the brand in this scenario. So there is a speed to everything we are doing, driven by technology. So there's so much available to learn. But important here is what we are learning, what we are doing that is creating us this new view of the future, what we can do different and create something that is better than we are living now. So to this topic, I read an article from Harvard Business Review, which is about a survey done by a Boston consulting group that is measuring what was happening to the major companies. Here we are talking about 250 companies that was part of this interview in the second quarter. So it's a global understanding what was going on inside the companies. In a nutshell, clearly on the left, you see all companies, they are basically reacting to the crisis. So there was a strong, obviously, focus to survive, to maintain the health of the business. But clearly, there was also a movement of companies already looking at the rebound phase. And the rebound phase is where basically we have this moment that companies, they need to reinvent, they need to see things different, they need to create a different or adapt to the business to this new situation. So there's a lot of creativity that has to be put in that place, in that moment. And from that, what is important that I like to keep in perspective is this is the time that is so creative for us in the business. There's so much creativity and this window of opportunity that opens. This is a unique time that we all, as a professionals, as leaders, we have the opportunity now to impact and to make a difference. So that's something that for me is really important. In this volatile world, we can't do the same as we usually did. So it is a time to do not standardize. I don't believe there will be ad hoc responses. I don't think this will not work, no longer work. And we need to be prepared. With new skills, do we need to be prepared and differentiated and open to these new dynamics, this new market? So which new values we can add to the business? So there will be a continuous expectations from organizations for you to deliver more. And years ago, and many years, when we talk about delivering more, we were talking about delivering market share growth. We're saying delivering sales growth and meeting the number and margins. It continues to be like that. This is the way we survive. This is the way we do business. But most importantly, a perspective here from MIT, not surprise for us, but it's important for us to think about what leaders should be doing now is preparing the future, not preparing for the future. So this is a role that is giving you, to sit at the front seat. So you have to be at the front seat. You don't have to sit at the back. So this is the time for you to help organizations to interpret, to analyze, understand what is going on in the market. So vision here is very important. So looking at a purpose. So the company should have a purpose. So you have to understand the market, give a purpose, reshape if necessary. So you have to lead and guide and help people to understand what is going on and inspire. So it's a mix of hard skills, but very important skills that are human skills that we are here to make that difference and make that happen. So to illustrate a little bit more, leaders now, they need to see beyond the metrics. It's not only about that number. The KPIs should not guide our culture in the companies. So there's something beyond and greater, bigger than that. So we need leaders that can imagine the unimaginable. This is an image that I saw from an artist that I think tells a lot about what we are talking here. So we need to have professionals who can see what is not easily seen, not the obvious. And this brings to a picture here that is just an analogy, just for us to get a little bit more of inspiration. So this is the time that we need to see things in a different way. So we need to see things with new eyes. We need to keep it simple and see what is not clear. It's difficult. So it's difficult to picture when you are in a daily pressure to deliver results. But we as humans, we need to develop this ability of seeing what is not obvious. From that, I want to shift a little bit to an example that I think illustrates very, very well. This is a case from Brazil on imagination. I think that illustrates very well. It's called Birds on the Wire. So you can look and get more information about this online. It's a work by Jarbas Agnelli. It's a work done 10 years ago, but it looks so recent, and it reverberates so much in the web until today that it's a very powerful idea, very simple, and I will explain you what that is. So all started when Jarbas was looking at the paper one morning, and he saw a picture of a bird sitting on the wire. It was a photographer that he did this nice shot, and he was impressed. And as a musician, he said, I can take some music, I can do a composition out of that. So he understood that the image and the birds on the wire, they were playing a very nice melody. It was sweetie, it was infantile, and he got in touch with the photographer, with the paper, and suddenly he understood that that was just a portion of the picture, but the picture was cropped, and he was able to get a full picture of the photographer. And this is what you see here on the screen. And that was the bingo moment. He had a very, very interesting melody from the beginning to the end. And that was so powerful, so brilliant, that he has today a band that plays that song that is really, touch your heart. It's really beautiful. And that story was so powerful that in the next 3 days, a local story in Brazil became global. He was invited to present in several TEDs across the globe. He presented in museums. He went to Guggenheim with his musicians. So the story is simple, is easy, but we can clearly see in the words of Jarbas that how a simple idea can have this power and go and take things beyond the obvious. So shifting to the second part of my presentation is I want to move into how do we move from here to a new place. So we have to establish new fundamentals, new foundations. So starting you being curious, so it's a time for us to really review new insights from the business, from our consumers. So we need to have new raw material, new data to build new stories, new connections with the market, with consumers. So all this to find or pursue and reshape your brand purpose. And we all need to do that with collaboration. So getting to a new vision, we need to really make sure that we take collaboration to a new level. So let me give you some practical examples about what I meant by this. So on the consumer, on the insights part, so revealing new insights, it's hard work. So there's a lot to be done here. When I talk about data information, there is so much available today from our digital marketing, our technologies, our KPIs in general. But what I'm saying here is, you have to have the habit, the drive to hear new insights. What I talk about, the ear to the ground insights. So you have to find new ways to ask powerful questions. So you need to have the ability to talk to your consumers. You have to talk to your shoppers. You have to observe what is going on. So all these new values, attitudes that are now available, you need to collect and make sure that you learn out of it. As part of my journey, I spent a couple of years working with research, with market research, especially in neuroscience. And here I just want to mention that beyond what is verbalized, what consumers tell you in your face, there is many other ways in research that you can understand what is underneath the iceberg. So what is not said, what is not verbalized, what is implicit tells you a lot. So through neuroscience, you can understand this system one. So Daniel Kahneman, he talks about that in a book that everybody is familiar with, which is Thinking Fast and Slow. So he talks about how can you understand what consumers are not telling you, and consumers don't even know about it. So also, your data, all the technology available, there's a lot that you can learn. You can identify new data, new information, new patterns, and you have, as a leader, as a human being, you have the ability, and you should be simplifying all that you hear and making it very genuine and make sense to you and to the organization. So with that, another story that I want to touch base on. So after you have this clear understanding or better understanding of your consumers, you need to take this to a new level, right? So this is not a time for those who are not clear about that yet. It's not a time for companies to push products. This is a time to engage emotionally. So your brand, your company should not be taking this opportunistic view, should not be absent about your company, about your product in the moment we're living. So companies, they should be taking a protagonist role and to tell, a strong and credible stories about the brand, working with these authentic insights that are touching consumers' hearts. I love this example from iFood. It's a campaign that is on in Brazil now, but I also saw it's available in other markets. So this campaign is very, very beautiful. It talks about this little girl, this young lady, that is talking about how much she misses her grandma. So her grandma is away. She's far from her, but she feels much better now because she can deliver her groceries to her grandma weekly. So it's so touching. You see her testimonial, and that makes you see iFood, the company, with different eyes. So it's not about delivery, it's all about love. And this is something very special, and it's a brilliant example. It's not the only example. There's so many good examples. Also, we see some bad examples happening. But on the camp of showing what is great, I want to talk about an experience that I lived and worked for Colgate for so many years that I have heart for it, but I really understand the purpose. What is purpose to an organization, to a business? So Colgate's building a future to smile about is something that unites and inspires the entire organization and all the stakeholders. But what I want to point it out here is when we talk about purpose, it's not a story, it's not an advertising film. It's all about how you bring all together. It's all about how you create your products, your technology, your pipeline of innovation, how you embrace your employees towards that purpose, how you engage your community, how you educate people, how you, these examples here that I worked on, how you help people to understand the value of washing hands and brushing teeth. So all of this is part of a sustainable way of managing the business that I think is a great example. The last part here is about the vision, the future. In other perspective, I think it's important here that I share my personal experience. Don't put too much pressure on you as a leader to have all the answers. You never will have all the answers. The organization, everyone looks at you to have all the answers, but if you want to have all the answers, if you want to have more data to be safe and credible about what you're doing, you need to take you and your team to a new level of collaboration. So this is going to help you think differently. So when we talk about this, it's very important to put in practice design processes. There's several methodologies, several ways that you can look, uncover new things, new discussions, new thinking. So open possibilities, focus what you learn to resolve problems, to think to new situations and potential solutions. So it's all about what humans can do, what we can be good at. So looking at this moment within different eyes, different perspectives and multifunctional teams, thinking together new, fresher views is going to take absolutely us in different ways. So this is all raw material that is helping you to manage the short term, but also it's material for you to think about the future, how to put together these new scenarios that we cannot see so clearly. So it's very important having this eye on generating new information, new data for us to plan together. So moving to the final slides here, I've been watching and seeing the discussions the last few days. So very clearly, it's important that we continue connecting our company, our teams with the market. So getting inspiration of startup models, so important. I can tell by my experience how much I learned in different models. People look at the business in a faster or different eyes, different structure, different ways of operating. So managing and these connections of senior leaders with younger generations. So all these multiple eyes working together is very, very fruitful. There's so much that we can learn. And also, I definitely recommend that if you work in organizations, engaging in other projects, in assignments that are beyond what you do. If you are in marketing, spend time in sales to see how it's to sit in the other side of the table. I know we are running out of time, but I want to give you an example. When I was managing the personal care business here in Brazil for Colgate, I had an additional job in the company for managing sustainability for the subsidiary. I learned so much about developing new products, taking care of our communities, seeing with lenses of diversity. So these all sustainable ways of managing the business brought me to new levels. So there's several other examples that took me through different experiences that helped me today to manage things in several industries, several markets, and consumers with more property. So there's no way we can have all this information if we don't practice. So with the eyes of organizations, so with all this data that you have to experiment. So you have to test and learn in small scales, whatever you do, don't leave that closed in your drawers. So you need to test your thinking, your hypotheses, your ideas. So it's critical as well to shape the organizations to this new thinking. So when you practice, you bring people in, you share responsibilities, you help the company to understand how things should be working by practicing. So practicing by exercising, so learning as you walk. So this is the time for us to really create together the best future. So with that, moving into a little bit of summary of everything that we talk about. There's so much in this presentation, but a couple of things that I want to point it out. So this is a time for us to think about the bigger picture. So there is an opportunity, and I think this is what we should be doing, is preparing the future. Very, very important for me here is how do we balance what the business needs, what is in it for the business, but what is in it also for you. So how do you take care of your goals? What is your goals professionally? What is your life purpose? So at the end of the day, everything that we talked about, that I mentioned and highlighted during this presentation, everything that we are saying about this focus, it has to match with your personal objectives, your life purpose. So a few concluding thoughts. This is a special moment that we are all immersed and living. So it's a big transformation that we are, faster than ever. So take the most of it. So it's in our hands to change the future. So we should be sitting in the front seat. More than ever, we need collaboration. We need to think together. We can't miss the big picture. We need to continue focusing on delivering results, but we need to think bigger, to get to new ways. Otherwise, we continue to be doing what we've always done. And invest in your continuous learning. So allow yourself to live new situations. So I think that's the final message that I want to leave, okay? So with that, it's just a big thank you for the opportunities. It's great to share what we are learning together. I'm here to continue the conversation, so glad to answer your questions and continue chatting. Okay? Thanks so much.
Thank you, Marcelo. Great presentation, full of good insights. Now we listen to Jessica. She will share a presentation as well, right?
Yes, hopefully.
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well. And your presentation is coming. Yes,
Yeah,
I can see as well.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, Marcelo. That was really interesting. Given me lots of inspiration for things I should sort of get my teeth into after the Congress. So just to echo the words, thank you so much for the opportunity of having the chance to talk to you all today. My name is Jessica Stamford. I'm originally from the UK. I'm an engineer, a program manager, hopefully a leader, and I am going to share with you today some of my experiences on both a personal and a professional level around the topic of the day and the destiny of work. I'm going to say I'm sorry in a way that today's session is in English. I do speak a few languages, as Renata mentioned at the beginning. I'm very sorry to say that Portuguese is not one of them. So I'm very grateful that you're all running this session in English and that I'm therefore able to take part. It's also an interesting sort of reflection that it's possible to join this kind of Congress when I am very far away from Brazil because of technology, because in a way of the pandemic, because of how much things have changed. And I think that's a great kind of starting point to go into the presentation. So I also apologize slightly if there are strange noises in the background. You can never quite tell what's going to happen. And of course, today, construction decided to start nearby. So I hope you can hear me clearly. So I wanted to look, when we look at the destiny of work, for me, I think the main themes are around change. So it's a changing world, as Marcelo and Renata have already given examples of. That means you need to have changing perspectives, that the situation is not the same today as it was yesterday, and it will not be the same tomorrow. So that also leads to changing roles. What's your role? What's your team's role? What's your business's role? What's your family's role? And how is that all changing now and into the future? And so the main question for me, most importantly, is who do you want to be? And I think if you bring yourself back to that question and give yourself time repeatedly throughout your life to question that and to think, who do I want to be? That will really help to ensure that sort of you're on the track. So I was chatting to my 12-year-old nephew recently, and he says, he's 12, and he said, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I simply said to him, neither do I. And it brought me to remember the wonderful lyrics of this song of the class of 99. And sort of, I think they're very, very fitting. They were fitting for the class of 99, which I consider myself part of, as I left school or high school in 1999 and went on to university. And the lines simply are, don't feel guilty if you don't know what you want to do with your life. The most interesting people I know don't know at 22 what they want to do with their lives. And some of the most interesting 40-year-olds I know still don't. The race is long, and in the end, it's only with yourself. And I think those are very profound lyrics, even today. And it's okay it's great if you know what you want to do with your life and you can sort of channel all your efforts into that. But it's also equally okay if you don't know, or if you know for now, but you don't know for the next step, or you don't know what the future may hold. And that's very much been something that has shaped my life and my career, which I'll go into now. And as sort of Renata said, it's ended up being an eclectic career. It's not at all what I planned at the beginning, but through a series of steps over the years, it's turned into a really interesting journey, and I wouldn't change it for the world. Oh, I'm sorry, my presentation won't go on to the next slide. Oh, there we go. So, following on from Marcelo's presentation, I also have 3 themes, but these are slightly different themes. And they are sort of general philosophies or pieces of advice that I will then give some examples to and talk more about. So the first one is to very much play to your strengths. What are your skills, your talents, your passions? What makes you unique? What do you bring that no one else can? Really find it may not be a particular subject. It might be a way of life. It might be a geography. It might be a work-life balance. But all of that will give you excitement and engagement and enthusiasm and energy, and ultimately will be a win-win for everybody around you. So make sure you're contemplating what are your skills and your passions, and channeling your life to follow that track. The second one, learn, and repeat. It's vital to keep learning. The more we learn about sort of the changing industries we work in, the changing world we see, new technologies that are coming, the only constant is change. And so we need to have a learning mindset, a growth mindset, and really just never think we've learned enough. There's always something else to discover. And the last is to seize opportunities. You don't have to do everything on your own, and you don't have to have a perfect plan. I am an engineer, I'm a planner, I like to have a plan. But you also have to realize that the only certainty is that plan is going to have to change. There is a phrase that basically the plan is the guaranteed thing that will not happen. Something else will happen instead. So I think it's great to have a plan and to contemplate future steps in your life, but also take those opportunities, see them for what they are, and make the most of them. So I'm going to give some examples. The first is just a quick story about myself. When I was at school and choosing my A-level subjects in the UK, we got to choose 3 subjects. I knew I wanted to do maths and I wanted to do German. And I didn't know what else to do. But my dad, who was a biology teacher, said it was my choice and my future. But if he had anything to say about it, he'd say, pick a science, pick a science, pick a science. So I did. I chose physics. And I was told that I couldn't study physics and German at the same time because who did science and languages? But I fought my case and they would change the system. And when I went to university, I continued to study my languages along with the science. And in fact, through the opportunity of someone suggesting doing a Women into Science and Engineering event, I discovered engineering even existed and went on to study that. Later on, as I graduated, or came towards graduating, I put out my CV, and it turned out that engineers, from the UK at least, with language skills were extremely rare. And so I was offered a graduate placement immediately, particularly because I had language abilities and I was willing to travel. So the advice back when I'd been 16 that said you didn't study science and languages together had been such terrible advice. But luckily, because I knew it was a passion, because I knew I wanted to get to some sort of future that involved languages, I was able to channel my path and get myself to the point where I ended up on the graduate scheme for a FTSE 100 engineering company and worked for them for the next 10 years across 10 countries. Sort of would trace it all back to that strength of sort of decision and going against the grain and it being extremely worth it. But then after about 10 years, I figured it was time for a change. And so I did research. I looked into what were alternative industries, what were alternative worlds, where could I use my engineering, use my management, use my skills for a completely different outcome and a completely different mindset. And so I discovered sort of the voluntary and the international development industries or worlds. And so I left my job, left my very comfortable corporate job, and decided to join a volunteer sending organization that paired me together with the government of Nepal. And in 2014, I found myself on a plane to Nepal, where I had never been, to work together with the government on large-scale renewable energy projects. And so that was already a huge change for me, working in the voluntary sector, working with government, working in renewable energy, and working in a country I didn't know. But then on the 25th of April 2015, everything changed. It was a major 7.8 Richter, on the Richter scale, earthquake that shook Nepal and shook me along with it. And it absolutely devastated large swathes of the middle of the country, with almost 9,000 people losing their lives and around 1 million households and families losing their homes. And so everything changed in that moment. And I seized the opportunity of already being in the country, already being established, knowing how to work with government. And I took that moment to shift and to start looking at the humanitarian response to the earthquake and how I could use my skills in a completely different way to help with the reconstruction that happened. So long story short, that brought me to my current organization, which is Build Change. And it's a nonprofit social enterprise that works in countries that are heavily affected by typhoons, hurricanes, earthquakes. And it works with locals, with builders, homeowners, governments, to make sure that houses are built to withstand those major events, preferably before the events strike, but certainly to help recover after as well. And so this found me in a completely different world of engineering that I wasn't used to, but bringing together those organizational skills together with my knowledge of sort of working in the post-earthquake reconstruction to lead teams of engineers and architects and builders, helping thousands of homeowners across the country to strengthen their homes or rebuild new. And why is it so sort of essential? Just to give a sort of, in terms of passions, how this is something I can be passionate about. So in the last decade, more than 500,000 vulnerable people died in earthquakes and typhoons. And generally speaking, they didn't die sort of from the event itself. They died from poorly built buildings collapsing and taking the lives of those who are in them. And this is something that's man-made. And as my CEO and founder likes to say, there may be a woman-made solution. And 5 million people lost their homes. So it's in bigger devastation for these poor and vulnerable communities. And it's a fact that homeowners struggle to get financing. They know they need a stronger home. They'd love to have a stronger home, but how do you do it if you don't have the money? And governments struggle with ever increasing numbers of houses being constructed to make sure that they follow code. It's estimated that by 2030, 3 billion people will live in this substandard housing. And many of it is in areas that are subject to hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, landslides, different events that can really make those houses deadly. So we're working to sort of shift focus on making houses safer before disaster strikes. And this image, for example, is of Typhoon Ursula that came through the Philippines on Christmas Eve, this last Christmas, as a category 3, and hit an area that had been hit by a super typhoon only a few years before. So, this is an archipelago of 7,000 islands, makes up the Philippines, regularly hit by really strong typhoons and strong earthquakes, which means it's really a place that needs support. So the passion is there, that's clear, seizing the opportunity of sort of whether it's an earthquake or a typhoon, but to get people's attention and then to start to address the problem. So the theory of change, of build change, is around bringing together money, technology, and people to really solve the problem of resilient housing, and making sure that all those come together with the homeowners themselves at the core of everything, to be able to solve the problem and actually get them in resilient housing. And I could talk at length about this, but I'm going to focus on technology. So I think it really links to the discussion today and the destiny of work. And the main thing we talk about technology, we mean engineering and architecture in our sense, but we also mean digital technology. And so what we strive to do is make sure that digital technology is really helping to make support and safe, resilient housing more accessible. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, I think there are some really good examples of how digitalization is really for everyone. And this was before the pandemic. I'll talk more about how that's even accelerated things. But on the left, you can see an image taken from a drone. So this is using drones to fly over affected areas. This is a displaced village. They're not able to live in their original houses because of the earthquake damage they've displaced. We can see the size, the damage, the layouts of previous houses. We can look at the amount of rubble. We can see access. And all of this can be done more effectively remotely, semi-remotely, using drones, which means more places can be viewed, can be analyzed in a more cost-effective way, which allows non-profits and governments with limited funds to access more people. On the right, we have an example of using awareness apps, simply enough, an app that can go on your smartphone that can either go straight to homeowners and builders out in the community and give them information that they need, give them access to sort of the contacts that they need to know what to do and to be able to access help before and after a disaster. But also it can help field agents to have at their fingertips, wherever they are, high in the Himalayas or out in island number 7001, to access the information they need to explain to the community what's going on and what's possible. Another example is using digitalization for efficiency gains. So in Nepal, as I showed before, we were helping people to strengthen their existing houses. There are literally hundreds of thousands of these houses scattered across the Himalaya that were affected by the earthquake and could use support. But how do you get the information to them? If you send engineers, it's slow, it's time consuming, it's expensive, and it's therefore just not feasible for such large numbers of people across such terrain. But if you can make it more efficient, you can reduce the time required and reduce the level of skill required of someone to assess the house, and then use digital systems to take that data and translate it straight away into designs and bills of quantities and action action sheets for somebody, again, less skilled, but with some construction knowledge to know what to do to make that house safer. And then you can even go further. And this is for the most rural houses in one of the most difficult terrains in the world, heavily affected by an earthquake, We even introduced using artificial intelligence to be able to, again, further sort of digitalize and further increase the ability of computers to help us with simplifying the analysis, therefore making it easier for less skilled people to simply take images of a house and for the system to be able to work out if the pre-engineered work that's been done before can be applied. And if it can, here's a quick answer, quick action sheet. You know what to do and how to make that house safer. And this is even for, as I say, the most rural, the poorest, most difficult to access communities around the world. And if you want to find out more, you can look at the call for code, artificial intelligence for retrofitting. You'll find a video that explains more around all of this. But then again, this is pre-pandemic. This is how much we're trying to use technology to get things cheaper and faster and more efficient, which means therefore more people can access them and more people can benefit. So coming back to sort of summarize my themes, I think it's important now to look back at these themes, not just on an individual level, but also on an organizational level. It's also important to think for your team or for your department or for your organization, what are your strengths? What makes you unique? What are you bringing? Because that's how you interest investors or donors or partners, collaborators to really help you get where you want to be going. If there's somebody else who's better at it, why would they come to you? So what can you be best at? What can you be unique with? Learning. One of the philosophies of Build Change is to learn first. And that's so critical. So much has already been done. We shouldn't be repeating things. We shouldn't be sort of taking the time and the effort to recreate something that's already there. So what's there? What works? And what exactly needs to be investigated or changed or improved? Or what's the unique niche that isn't being responded to? And how do you fit that niche? There's always more to discover. And that's true for organizations as well as individuals. And seizing opportunities. So I gave sort of a couple of examples, whether your opportunity is sort of somebody saying no, so you're not winning something or not receiving something, whether your opportunity is an earthquake or whether your opportunity is a pandemic. It's looking at those opportunities and really using them to say, okay, I wasn't expecting to live through this event, but actually it's given me a chance to see the world from a different perspective and realize that my skills are applicable here. Or maybe by doing the same, I could have a greater impact over here. Or maybe my organization was really old school, worked before the pandemic, but now we really need to shift. We need to shift to online training. We need to shift to delivering our capacity in the most practical and digital and virtual ways that we can to keep ourselves competitive and keep delivering the services, even if it's to remote communities in non sort of technically advanced areas. So the destiny of work is changing world with changing perspectives and changing roles. So take a moment and think, who do you want to be? And then sort of start to work on your plan and be flexible because it will change. So that's it from me. My contact details are also here on the slides. I know we're opening up the questions now as well. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk. And I look forward to answering your questions, and feel free to get in touch if you wish to in the future. Thanks.
Very, very good presentation. Good. Yes, we hear here good insights from Marcelo's presentation, right? Prepare the future, not for the future. I like that one. So you have to be the protagonist. I mean, the organizations have to be the protagonists, right? Also, the other thing that the other insight is beyond the KPI. Sometimes companies are so focused on checking their numbers and looking only for the results itself, but look beyond that is much more important, especially in this new world we are living to, right? Another thing, keep it simple. Another insight from Marcelo's, right? Keep it simple, that's it. Jessica mentioned this as well, right? create habits, new habits, né? Right? Engage emotionally. Jessica also mentioned on her presentation what you are passionate about. That's what will make you move on in a very simple and smooth way, right? Don't feel the pressure to really know from in advance. Jessica mentioned that, and also Marcelo, right? The leader, they don't have to have all the answers. So that's why a collaborative team is very important, to really take the tools, use the virtual tools now, right? As Jessica mentioned, we had to adapt. The company, even for more traditional that the company is, it's necessary to be adapted in order to really bring the teams together and collaborate, right? What else? Okay, and I love also, planning is good. I'm also have an engineer background. We know how to plan. We plan all the time, right? But of course, change requests, when you are in the middle of the project, one thing that you are sure about, change requests will arrive. The scope changes all the time, so don't get too stressed. Just rethink, redo, replan. And this is something that is really, we have to take in mind also in order to really navigate in this world. So you have to plan yourself, your activities, your learn, as Jessica put also, right? You have to learn all the time. So don't get stressed, just move on. So we see I have here some questions. We see, just a moment. Oh my gosh. Okay, I think this question is for both of you. And just before the questions, there are some questions about how to access the previous presentations or this one, if they have problems with the access. Everything will be recorded, so you have the access inside the platform, okay? Okay, so one question. Talk about the importance of the soft skills today. Marcelo mentioned that, Jessica mentioned that. Okay, and the future of work, what the importance of this in the way for learning society, in the way for the learning society and learning organizations. So what's the importance of it? Can you elaborate a bit more? Who is that?
I can start.
Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yep. What is the name of, do you have?
Sorry, it was from Flavia Celidonio.
Flavia. Okay, Flavia, your question is about how important is developing your soft skills to understand people, understand corporation. I think that's fundamental in our discussion. So it's really critical that reminding what I mentioned during my presentation, is really important that you develop new skills to analyze what is going on. So having these fresh new ideas and understanding of what is going on with people, what is going on with corporations. So this is very, very important for us to manage our businesses, our lives, our future in general. I think developing soft skills is critical in this new momentum, is even more important now.
Good.
Okay.
Good, thank you, Marcelo. Jessica, do you want to comment on that as well?
Yeah, I will. I think, I think soft skills and people skills are utterly essential. And again, I think having be trained as an engineer, deliberately, in a way, to work with machines and not work with people, I sort of realize as my career progresses that that's not how it works. It's all around teams, it's around customers, clients, it's all about people. So, I think as leaders, it's around sort of building an environment that encourages individuals to really contribute everything they can. And so for their growth and their soft skills and sort of communication and all of these things that we all know about, but it's essential. no one person is going to solve everything, and no one person is going to make something successful. It's always teamwork, and it's always understanding, who is this service for, who is this product for, but who is the team, who's got the skills, who's interested in this. So it's all of that, communication, soft skills, people skills. And then in the end, you might be coding, you might be building, you might be selling, but that's kind of secondary, actually. It's really about, who have you got, who are the right people, what are you trying to do on a human level, and then the rest sort of, maybe more nuanced, but I think that is essential across all industries and all teams.
I have a question on this line for you, Jessica, and Marcelo also, please comment. What are the main barriers you see on this increasing about use of the use of technology? There are some groups that are very hard to reach, right? So what you can suggest to overcome this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that we really see in our work, really trying to access physically distanced people, but also economically or socially distanced people. I think one of the positive elements coming out of the pandemic is that sort of vast swathes of countries, governments have been forced, and industries have been forced to move more digital. So that needs infrastructure as well as software and sort of content. And so when you have communities where maybe somebody in the whole village has a smartphone, but they don't have internet connectivity, or they don't have, then how are they doing homeschooling? How are you doing banking if people can't physically go to where these services traditionally are from? So one of the positive trends we're seeing is an increase in penetration of the infrastructure needed, both sort of individual, phones or whatever, or tablets, but also to major infrastructure like access to internet that is increasing, and it's increasing faster because everybody is now sort of clamoring to access it, but also to deliver it. But still, so just today, I can give an example. Working with my team in the Philippines, there's heavy rains because it's the sort of the summer season. Typhoon went past, heavy rains. That's it. Everybody's internet cuts out. So trying to work digitally, remotely with teams, it's very difficult. But I think, sometimes people don't do things just because they're difficult. But actually, as I showed hopefully with a couple of my examples, the use of modern technology can really help make basic services more accessible and more cost effective. So we need to keep working in these directions and making the most of the opportunities. But it's not easy, and we're not there yet. But hopefully, maybe one of the positives out of this pandemic is that we'll be moving faster down that road.
Good. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, it caught my memory here, Jessica. I was following a webcast these days, and there was a discussion in the same line as we are talking now. And interesting, the person said, there's so much that we are concerned today about technology and be present in lives and connecting everything that we are trying to do to keep going. And there was a comment saying, listen, we still have telephones. We can connect with people easily. We can hear their voices. We can get better their emotions. So let's do the basics as well. So don't get too frustrated if you don't get the internet connection, you don't get access to the webinar and live, you name it, Zooms, etc. So if you don't have that, just call your team, call your people, and get something out of it, and keep going.
Yeah, telephone has been there forever, right? So just to use it, right? Well, another question here. This is for Marcelo, but Jessica can comment as well regarding the future of work for the public institutions. What are the challenges you see regarding knowledge management on this public institution? Do you Can you comment on that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Sorry, this question is from Luciane Girotto, okay?
Luciane, I can tell you, independently of if it's a public or any type of company, a small business or family business, I think what is critical in this moment is to change the mindset of people for learning, for getting knowledge. I think in the case of the private section is. On the public section, I think it's more critical because we change governments on, and so the risk of losing information or leaving something important behind is easier, I think. So I think what is critical is to develop a process of knowledge management. Mm-hmm. So bring that into practice and include that as part of any strategic discussion, independently of the type of industries or segment we are doing things on. Okay?
Yeah.
So that would be my take on this.
Good.
Okay.
Jessica, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, maybe just quickly. I think to echo what Marcelo was saying, one of the things I saw, for example, straight after the earthquake in Nepal was the fact that earthquake affected everybody in the area. So it didn't matter if you were the mayor, didn't matter if you were, an individual. Everybody was affected. So the government were also trying to look after, how could they set their systems up? How could they get help out? How could they communicate? And so everybody was struggling in the same way. And I think that's true on a global scale from the pandemic. Everybody is in this situation. Everybody is trying to change rapidly the way they work to cope with sort of skeleton teams or remote working or different sort of capacities that needed suddenly. So I think it's good to sort of remember that public sector, private sector, big corporations, individual businesses and individuals, we're all figuring this out right now, and literally the whole world at the same time. And it's never been like this before. So I think there are things that public sector specifically need to do. And in my experience, they do tend to be slightly behind private sector in already moving to digitalization. So they maybe have further to go. But the basic point is that we're all in the same situation and everybody's sort of trying their best to figure out how to adapt, what to do. And we all need to sort of have a look at each other and all sort of see what people are doing well, gather that knowledge, use it, and then bring all of us up to the standard we need to be at.
Good, thank you, Jessica. There is another question. Actually, it's for Jessica, I think. How is the governance of the build chance? It's from Gertrudis. Maybe Marcelo can comment as well regarding governance, the governance inside the company that you are working for.
Yeah, absolutely. So I could say a little bit about Build Change. So I said we are a non-profit social enterprise. We're registered in the US. So our CEO and founder, Elizabeth Hausler, is from the US. And so when she formed Build Change 15 years ago, she registered in California. And so we are under the laws of the US in terms of a non-profit, and we are audited as such and follow the laws and regulations. But we have for example, we have a board that's independent, that meets regularly, that sort of checks our progress and that sort of gives advice and strategy guidance as well. But then in each of the countries that we work in, we follow whatever the regulations are of those particular countries. So we register as a non-profit in whatever process there is in that local country with the government there, and sort of manage the local operations as are required. So I'm not sure if that's maybe answered the question, but that's a specific governance following sort of the specific non-profit guidance of the US. But I've seen sort of everything from every level, from say FTSE 100 publicly listed organizations in the UK to people who are just running a shop in their community and scraping together their living. I think there's very different ways to govern things on a corporate side. And then also working with governments. I've now had the joy of working with governments across sort of Nepal, the Caribbean, the Philippines, and that's very different to the private sector. And there are very different ways of approaching how to support populations depending on the history of that country, the culture, and the sort of the situation as it has grown up. So the governance varies a huge amount, but I'll stop there and see Marcelo.
Good.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, covered everything. It's perfect.
Good. So maybe let me see. Okay, one question regarding more. Okay, if you are considering, okay, some advices now, maybe you could both give us. If someone is considering change roles or companies, and also how you could give us some examples on how you learn, how you redirect your careers, and how you can really have good hands-on knowledge, not only the theory or something like this, and also beyond the on-the-job experience, right? But what do you recommend?
Can I start, Jessica? Yeah. Okay. I could talk about this specific question for longer.
Okay.
There's so much you can learn every day. When you're planning your career, the same way as you engineer things, you have a plan, but you have to be flexible to adapt. But along this journey, you have to develop new skills. You have to be very open to get into things that is not part of your track, your traditional track. For example, during my work at corporations, I went outside working closer to startups. So that view of open innovation was very important for me. And later on, when I started engaging and being part of startups, that made for me a very clear understanding that is where I could add a lot of value to, that inspired me. So I really precious what experiences you have in the past that can contribute to your future decisions. The same way as we discussed, I come from a social communication advertising background. That was 20 years ago, but I decided to go back to design and drawing and exercising this again, much later in my career again. And that gave me new avenues to follow. That gave me new inspirations, new people. So I think, along this journey of learning, it's very important that you keep also a very open-minded to see new things, not the obvious. Try to, a little bit of Jessica as well, learning, at school, new decisions about her career, her studies. So I think that's important that you know what moves you, what touches your heart, believe on that, and continue the journey, learning always new things. I think that's my take on this.
Jessica, do you want to complement?
Yeah, I think just to say, so I'm a big fan of change. I think it's inevitable, so we may as well embrace it. But I think there's a lot you can do to make it the right kind of change for you, and also just to sort of, try and make the most of a situation. So I think for me, if you're thinking of changing careers or companies or industries, or just work-life balance, whatever it is, I think for me, it all starts with a period of self-reflection. So it's just stepping back into yourself and thinking, well, what do I like about the current situation? What's good? What do I want more of? What do I want less of? What is it that's driving me to want to change? Is this therefore sort of taking me along that path? Or what would take me along that path? Or where could that path possibly take me to? And sort of having that self-reflection and then researching what's there, what's out there, what exists, what meets those needs that you've identified, and starting to sort of build your plan. And and the plan will have to change. And if a golden opportunity comes your way, whatever form it takes, sort of again, quickly do a period of self-reflection. It may only be a second, and sort of go, okay, this is too brilliant. It's right on track with what I'm aiming for. I have to make something of this. So have that sort of freedom and enjoyment. Like, you only have one life. So if you're feeling that the current path is not right for whatever reason, look at that and find out what that means for you and change, because you'll be happier that way. And happy individuals make happy teams, make happy companies, make hopefully a happy world.
Good, very good. Actually, just arrived another question. We are running out of the time, but maybe I can take this one as well. Okay, it's from Marcos Lima. Oh my gosh, just a moment. It's from Marcos Lima de Araújo, Instituto Federal do Maranhão, from Northeast, so far away from here also. Congratulations, Jessica, great example regarding the previous comments on your company, Jessica. Were the secured buildings presented financed by the government or other sources of fundraising? Were there people with crowdfunding skills on the team? This is for you, yeah. Jessica.
Yeah, so I'll answer quickly. So as I showed briefly, the theory of change is that you need technology, you need people on board, but you also need money. And if people don't fundamentally have access to the money they need to do the cost-effective but effective solution, they aren't going to be able to do it. So we work in different ways in different countries, and depending if it's post-disaster or working before something as well. And sometimes, yes, governments have schemes, post-disaster, for example, in Nepal, where they had huge subsidies to help people rebuild, or in Colombia, where we work, where the government has got a large preventative program helping people to strengthen their houses ahead of a possible earthquake. And so those government subsidies exist, and we work with them to make them both accessible to people, but also technically are going to lead to a safer house. That's not always the case. You can put money into a house and it doesn't make it safe. So we help with the technical to make it safe. But in other places like the Philippines, where I work, we've actually moved more towards private finance. So what we mean by that is working with microfinance organizations or rural banks or cooperatives. So financing mechanisms that already work at the community level to pool funding, to access short-term loans, but with good interest rates and but also good payback rates, because they work as a community, and helping people to access that funding, again, with technical expertise so that they build a safer house. I think so we don't have a crowd funding expert on the team, but it's sort of, we work with different partners, different communities, and often we will facilitate however they believe they can access funding. A lot of the countries we work in, for example, there's huge remittance schemes where overseas labour send back money to the country. And so working with groups around how to utilise that, again, for safer housing. So the money part is critical. We work wherever we can with whatever sources of funding there are, and trying to make it sustainable as well. So when we step away, those microfinance organizations can continue, those tools are there, and more people can access those financial and technical services. That's sort of the model, whether it's public finance or private finance.
Good, thank you, Jessica. And just arrived, congratulations to both of you. Outstanding contributions. It's saying Jorge Kovacs. It says to Jessica and Marcelo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, very outstanding. And thank you very much. I think that's we run out of time. You can continue the conversations in the chat we have in our coffee area, which is the Telegram group. So basically, I could summarize all of this in just few words, like put the passion in everything you do. Really find your passion. Find what you love to do, and really engage emotionally, right? So these are some insights that Jessica put there and Marcelo put there. And this is something I believe, really. If you work with enthusiasm, you go far. Okay. Thank you very much, Marcelo.
Thank you, it was a pleasure.
Thank you, Jessica. It was very nice to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so we now have another session soon. So enjoy a little break now, and we'll come back soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.